So as a kid, I grew up just outside of Springfield, Missouri, a little town called Rogersville. My dad got me into fishing and hunting at an early age. I can remember catching my first bass. I think I was 7 years old. Dad took us to this farm pond and I caught one on a topwater plug about probably less than 10 foot out there in front of me. Hit it right when I was bringing the bait in, so I was hooked. When I was 16 years old, the very first bass tournament I entered was on Boone Lake. I remember there were 84 boats in the tournament and there was a rain delay, and I ended up winning the tournament with only 4 fish that weighed 1652. And I won $1,500. I was a junior in high school and I was hooked on tournament fishing from then on. A couple of things that drive me, and they have for many, many years. A mentor, gosh, probably 25 years ago, made a statement to me. He said, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. Always be green, always be willing to accept change, always be willing to learn new things, and I've always kept that open mind. I've gotten to where I've gotten today by doing the little extra. If you do just the normal whatever status quo is in life, whether it's at your job, or whatever, doing the little extra is what has always got me ahead in life. I'm Todd Goade, and this is my story. I'm Todd Goade, and we're here in White Pine, Tennessee. Back in 2018, our oldest daughter lives in Bristol with our grandson, and we were looking for kind of the next step in our life, and we wanted to get closer to her and the grandbaby. So I grew up here in East Tennessee since I was about 14 years old, and we had lived in Georgia for the past 20 years down there around Lake Lanier, and we got to looking for property and a place we really wanted to put a stake in the ground and call it our forever home. So we did a lot of searching and ended up finding this property and was able to build our forever home up here, something we've worked hard all our lives for. And so as a kid, I grew up just outside of Springfield, Missouri, a little town called Rogersville. And I had a good friend, Marty Knight. He lived in our neighborhood. Our subdivision was you had one main road going in and then you had 2 streets, and everybody knew everybody in the neighborhood. But Marty and I used to ride our bikes everywhere. We knew where every farm pond was within probably a 10-mile radius of our house. And we're on our bikes with our fishing poles strapped to the bikes, and there wasn't a place that we didn't find or didn't catch a fish on. So my dad got me into fishing and hunting at an early age. I can remember catching my first bass. I think I was 7 years old. Dad took us to this farm pond and I caught one on a topwater plug about probably less than 10 foot out there in front of me. Hit it right when I was bringing the bait in, so I was hooked. As a kid in the summers, I was wading the river and chasing smallmouth and goggle eye and rock perch. So just had to get my chores done at the farm for Grandpa before we could go to the river. So when I was 14, my dad, we're actually Piccadilly Cafeteria. I was a 3rd generation. I worked for them for 20 years as well, but my grandfather was one of the early pioneers of the company, and my dad worked for him for 37 years. He got an opportunity to get a promotion to move to East Tennessee. He took the leap of faith and we moved just outside of Kingsport when I was 14. Got into fishing here. Dad and I explored all the lakes around East Tennessee, Boone Lake, Watauga, Cherokee. When I was 16 years old, the very first bass tournament I entered was on Boone Lake. I remember there were 84 boats in the tournament and there was a rain delay, and I ended up winning the tournament with only 4 fish that weighed 1652. And I won $1,500. I was a junior in high school and I was hooked on tournament fishing from then on. And from there, joined a bass club, the old High Country Bass Club up in Hampton, and Fished with those guys for several years, and through my college years, and just really was just a bass fishing fanatic. A couple of good friends of mine, Brian Bowling and David Tudor, we fished a lot of tournaments together. We fished in the club together. We were glued to the TV when Bassmasters came on TNN. We've just ate up with bass fishing, and that time was probably, the biggest boom in professional bass fishing, and it really made me want to, at some point trying to compete at that level. So after college, I kind of got settled in my work career, and when I met my wife, we had 2 daughters, and they were playing travel softball and rec softball, so we were kind of running the roads with that. So fishing's kind of, it took a back seat for a little while. And in '07, I got into the BFLs there in the Bull Dog Division in Georgia, and just wanted to, I knew I could compete, at a higher level than what I had been doing. I'd done okay in some local tournaments and stuff. So got in the Bull Dog Division. I remember the very first tournament at Sinclair, there was like 218 boats in it, and I finished 18th that day in my first, ever tournament of that size and magnitude. So I ended up finishing 3rd in Angler of the Year that year in 2007. So, I had a few opportunities to fish the FLW Tour, and just because of family and travel, and I just, I didn't have the time to go out there and look for the sponsors that could help support me, and I never wanted to put my family at risk financially, chasing a fish. So it kind of took a back seat, and I just fished the BFLs. I fished those all the way up until 2018, and the volunteer division, their regional, was at Hartwell for 2019. So I traveled back up here and fished all the lakes I had fished, and got to see people I hadn't seen in 15 or 20 years, and had a really good year in those BFLs. Finished 5th for the year, qualified for that regional at Hartwell. The final day, I ended up finishing 6th place, and I tied with a buddy of mine down there. His name's Conrad Bolt, but I won on the tiebreaker because I caught the heaviest bag between us for the 3 competition days. So that got me in the All-American, and went back to Hartwell for the All-American, and was leading that event after 2 days. And it just wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't my time to win an event like that. But it was a great experience. Caught a lot of fish. That actually kind of put my name on the map, I guess, so to speak, a little bit, as someone that could compete. And I had a chance to fish the NPFL, the inaugural year. I've known Al McCullough for a few years, and at that time we were building this house, and our youngest daughter was a senior in high school, and I just had too much going on. And I had originally committed to fish. I think Al told me I was the 2nd guy to commit to fishing the league. But I had to back out that first year. It was a great year last year. We have the first event at Cumberland, and the lake rises 8 feet in a day. Got out of the gate in the NPFL with a really good, first event, good finish. So that kind of kick-started me. And I ended up 13th in Angler of the Year last year. And the crazy thing about it, my worst finish last year was at Hartwell, and a place I love, and it just, just one of them crazy things, just kind of a fishing deal. But that led into this year. I was able to have a really good title sponsor last year with BB Geomatics, and Safe Haven was an associate sponsor last year, and Safe Haven came on as my title sponsor. And as you can see how the story went, kind of the rest was history throughout the year. It was just one of those dream years that, I'll never forget. After my career in the restaurant business, I got into pest control, and my neighbor down the street was a branch manager at Orkin Pest Control, and I asked him back in the summer of, it was 2001, if he had any sales positions open, and he said not at the time. And then a couple months later I asked him, and he said not at the time. And I don't know, 2 months later went by, and I asked him again, and he said come down to the office and fill out an application. And he hired me basically on the spot, and he said I wasn't going to hire you until you asked me 3 times. I wanted to know that you had it in you. So funny thing about it, I went through training, a couple of months of training, and the first account I sold all of the Arby's restaurants in Atlanta, like 85 restaurants, a monthly pest control contract. So pest control has been something, in my life the last 20 years, and I was in national account sales the last 9 years with a company called Rent-A-Kill, and dealt with large clients, like the Krogers of the world, the Lowe's, the Home Depots, the public supermarkets, those kind of things, and just really made a name for myself in the pest control industry too, providing solutions to those people. And that's been, what has afforded us, and my wife's had a really good job too, and she's a nurse practitioner. And she's been in the hospice and palliative care field for several years. So all of that hard work kind of culminated into, what we have here now. And I guess it was 2018, I fished the Costa Series, which is now the Toyota Series, and the owner of Pulse Fish Lure sponsored me that year. And I've always been a scrounger fan. I remember, Tom Mann getting some of the original scroungers from Aaron Martin's, and he called me, and we went out to Lanier, and I mean, we caught the heck out of giant spotted bass, and I was kind of hooked on a scrounger type bait from 2008. So Randy sponsored me that year, and my business partner, he was helping Randy at the time, Jeremy Wynn, in 2019, Randy's wife was killed in a head-on car crash, and it was just just devastating. And Randy came to Jeremy and myself and said, hey guys, if you want to take on Pulse Fish Lures, he said, my heart's not in it anymore. You guys can take it further than I could ever take it. And Jeremy and I talked about it, and I was like, I'm not going to do it if you don't want to do it. And he was the same way. He said, I'm not going to do it if you don't want to do it. So, we turned a tragedy into a feel-good story where we've taken Randy's legacy and, taken the pulse jig that he invented. He's always a tinkerer. He's a Ranger boat rep and just always tinkered in things. But we took that scrounger and we've added, from that pulse jig, we've added over 100 SKUs now in our product line at Pulse Fish Lures, and we're going to have fishing rods next year too. So a couple of lines in the Pulse series, and we're going to have 6 rods with Matt Airy tournament editions. So the company's growing, so it's fun to be able to fish the NPFL and then have a business that's in the fishing business as well. And we sponsor Brian New and of course Matt Airy, so it's cool to talk with those guys and learn some things on all the tours, and just hang out and just be good buddies. But a couple of things that drive me, and they have for many years. A mentor, probably 25 years ago, made a statement to me. He said, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. So always be green, always be willing to accept change, always be willing to learn new things. And I've always kept that open mind when it comes to change and learning new things. And it's really helped me on the water too. Another thing that really inspires me is I've gotten to where I've gotten today by doing the little extra. If you do just the normal, whatever status quo is in life, whether it's at your job, or whatever, doing the little extra is what has always got me ahead in life, got a little bit of an advantage, made that extra sale, gone above and beyond for somebody, and just doing that little extra. That in life, has really served me well. Those two things, I pretty much live by those two things.